One player threw a tantrum over something hitting his face. Another destroyed an entire locker room after missing the cut. These are the most inappropriate moments in golf history. And first up, pay close attention to this amateur move, because what happens next will make you question if some pros deserve their tour cards. Picture this. You're making millions as a professional golfer. You're playing in a live event, and your biggest enemy isn't Tiger Woods or the course conditions. It's something way more dangerous. Well, that's exactly what happened to Bryson at the 2022 Live Golf event in Chicago. Walking off the tee like any normal day, Bryson goes to duck under a gallery rope and snap. The rope catches him flush across the face, right in the eye. Now most pros would laugh it off, maybe throw out a sarcastic wave to the crowd, shake their head and move on. Not Bryson. This man throws his driver down like he just witnessed a crime, yells, "Ow, my eye!" like a 5-year-old who got denied dessert, then starts pointing fingers yelling, "What the heck, man?" like someone else was responsible for his own clumsiness, and storms away from the crowd in complete embarrassment. The whole thing was caught on camera, and within hours the clip was everywhere. X, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. Golf fans absolutely roasted this dude, calling it the softest meltdown in golf history. And honestly, they weren't wrong. I mean, come on, man, you got beat by a rope. A rope. It's not like it was moving or fighting back, it was just hanging there doing rope things. The rope won, Bryson lost, and golf Twitter had a field day. But if you think getting humiliated by inanimate objects is embarrassing, wait until you see what happens when a frustrated pro decides to make an innocent caddy his personal punching bag. The 2025 Masters first round par 5 8th hole. Max Homa's about to create one of the most awkward situations in major championship history and somehow make himself look like the victim. So here's what went down. Homa misses the fairway off the tee and finds himself stuck under some trees like he's playing hide-and-seek with his golf ball. Most players would take their medicine, chip out safely, and move on with their lives. But not Max. He decides to attempt some hero shot, a rescue punch between the trees. The shot flies through the gap perfectly, but then takes one unexpected bounce and smack, nails a 4 caddy standing ahead, right in the backside. The poor guy leaps forward like he just got tased, visibly startled and trying to recover his composure. Now here's where it gets wild. Instead of apologizing or showing any concern for the guy he just pelted with a golf ball, Homa's immediate reaction is frustration directed at the caddy. Come on, dude. Come on, dude. My man, you literally just turned this man into your personal dartboard while he's doing his job, and you're acting like he's the one who messed up? That's some next-level entitlement right there. Imagine getting hit by a golf ball at work and having the guy who hit you act like you're the problem. The craziest part? Despite all this chaos, Homa still managed to par the hole and shoot 74. Speaking of taking your frustrations out on innocent bystanders, our next player decided golf gear makes excellent projectiles. It's 1999. Sergio Garcia is just 19 years old, and he's about to create what might be the most bizarre response to a bad shot in golf history. Picture this. World Match Play Championship. Young fiery Sergio is playing in front of a packed gallery when he absolutely chunks a shot. We're talking about the kind of shot that makes you question your life choices. Any reasonable person would throw their club, slam it into the ground, or curse under their breath. Sergio had other plans. This man looks down at his feet, takes off his shoe, his actual shoe, and launches it into the crowd like he's throwing out the first pitch at a baseball game. The fans are sitting there stunned, probably wondering if they just witnessed a mental breakdown or some weird Spanish tradition they'd never heard of. But wait, it gets worse. When the fans throw the shoe back onto the course, Sergio doesn't just pick it up and put it back on like a rational person. No. He kicks it at a referee like he's playing soccer at recess. Keep in mind this dude was only 19, so everyone chalked it up to teenage emotions. But honestly, that's just wild behavior. You know what they say, when life gives you bad shots, assault the paying customers with your footwear. Totally normal, right? But shoe-throwing tantrums look like child's play compared to what happens when a pro completely loses it on his own support team. BMW International Open 2019, Munich. Matt Wallace is in contention on the back nine, the cameras are rolling, and what happens next is about to end his relationship with his caddy forever. Wallace is having one of those rounds where everything's going right, until it doesn't. Standing on the 18th tee with a real chance to win, he decides to go for glory and attacks a risky pin position. The ball finds the water with a splash that could probably be heard back in England. Now here's where things go completely off the rails. Instead of taking responsibility for his aggressive shot choice, Wallace turns to his caddy, Dave McNeely, and absolutely loses his mind. We're talking full-blown verbal assault, the kind of public humiliation that makes you want to crawl under a rock. But it gets even uglier. Sky Sports cameras catch Wallace not just screaming at McNeely, but getting physical with the guy. This isn't some heated discussion between teammates. This is straight-up abuse of someone who's just trying to do their job. Golf fans on social media went insane. People were saying this guy should be banned from the tour. And honestly, they had a point. Even golf coach Pete Cowan called Wallace a complete idiot and demanded action. Wallace tried to play it off later, claiming it was just a heated discussion that anyone has. But man, we all saw the footage. That wasn't a discussion. That was a meltdown. Which brings us to this next player who thought he could outsmart the system. December 2024, Marco Penge thought he found the ultimate side hustle, betting on the sport he plays professionally. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well. So get this, while Penge is out there grinding on the DP World Tour, trying to make a living playing golf, he's secretly placing bets on golf tournaments from 2022 to 2023. We're not talking about some high-roller whale making massive wagers either. This guy's average stake was 24 pounds. That's less than what most people spend on dinner. But here's the kicker. After all that risk, all that sneaking around, all that jeopardizing his entire career, how much did our criminal mastermind profit? A whopping 250 pounds total? Let me put this in perspective. This man risked everything for what most people spend on a weekend night out. He was betting on Ryder Cups, major championships, you name it. The DP World Tour hit him with a 3-month suspension, fined him 2,000 pounds, and publicly humiliated him across the golf world. When they caught him, Penge claimed it was all a genuine and honest mistake. A mistake? Dude, you don't accidentally place dozens of bets over 2 years. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. The best part? He probably spent more on gas driving to tournaments than he ever made from his gambling empire. But if you think risking your career for pocket change is stupid, this next player will probably be banned for life. Some players cry when they miss a cut. Others sulk quietly. And then there's Wyndham Clark, who apparently decided the locker room furniture needed to pay for his poor performance. US Open pressure does things to people. The weight of expectations, the media scrutiny, the knowledge that one bad round can end your week, it all builds up. The 31-year-old was grinding through his second round at Oakmont when everything went sideways. A brutal 74 put him at 8 over for the tournament, one shot away from making the weekend. One single stroke separated him from continuing his tournament and heading home early. Rather than losing with class or, playing better golf, Clark chose a different path. He marched straight into that historic Oakmont locker room and declared war on everything in sight. Lockers, demolished. Benches, destroyed. Anything he could get his hands on became a casualty in his personal meltdown. We're talking systematic destruction here, not just one angry swing, but a full rampage that left the place looking like a hurricane hit it. Other players walked in to find what used to be a pristine facility, now resembling a crime scene. Someone had to clean up this mess, and it wasn't going to be Clark. The monetary damage was one thing, but the reputation damage, that lasts forever. When you're throwing tantrums that require a cleanup crew, you've crossed a line that separates competitors from children. Look, we get it. Missing the cut at a major hurts, but destroying property like you're going through a divorce? That's when you know you need anger management, not golf lessons. Speaking of things getting out of hand, let's talk about the day Live Golf learned that even billions of dollars can't buy peace and quiet on a golf course. It was during a regular tournament round. The kind where players are competing for life-changing money while critics debate the morality of sports washing. The sun was shining, the grass was perfect, and nobody expected their day to include ducking flying objects. The caddy was just going about his business. You know the routine. Checking wind directions, pulling clubs, doing all those little things that make professional golf tick. He definitely didn't expect to end it as a target in some fan's impromptu game of Angry Birds. Then it happened. The bottle came screaming through the air like a poorly aimed missile. We're not talking about some empty plastic water bottle here. This was a proper projectile. The bottle connected. The sound was enough to make everyone within earshot snap their heads around. Here's the crazy part. The fan didn't even try to be sneaky about it. Just wound up and launched it like they were trying out for the baseball team. In broad daylight, at a professional sporting event, with cameras everywhere, not exactly criminal mastermind material. Can you picture this? A peaceful afternoon at the Fries.com Open in 2011. Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer of all time, is lining up a putt. The crowd is silent, every breath held, every eye glued to the green. It's the kind of moment where time seems to stand still. But somewhere in that hushed gallery, chaos is quietly brewing, though no one could have guessed just how bizarre things were about to get. And then it happened. Out of nowhere, a hot dog soared through the air, a flying missile of processed meat hurtling toward Tiger Woods. Yes, you heard that right. A hot dog. The kind of thing you'd expect to see on a picnic plate, not streaking through the air during a golf tournament. The man behind this act of culinary rebellion? Brandon Kelly, a 31-year-old from Petaluma, California. As security descended on him, tackling him to the ground, Kelly offered a baffling explanation. He was inspired by the movie Drive. You know, that Ryan Gosling film about silent intensity and high-speed car chases. Somehow, in Kelly's mind, throwing a hot dog at Tiger Woods was his ticket to an epic moment. But here's the best part. The hot dog didn't even make it to Tiger. It landed pathetically short, flopping onto the green like an afterthought, a sad little sausage that perfectly symbolized Kelly's judgment. The crowd stared, stunned. Security acted swiftly, dragging Kelly away, as he presumably pondered whether this epic stunt was worth the jail time. So, what drives a man to throw a hot dog at Tiger Woods? The world may never know. We're back in 2022, and Rory McIlroy found himself facing not just a heckling fan, but a piece of technology that seemed straight out of a golf-themed episode of Black Mirror. The setting was the BMW Championship at Wilmington Country Club, Delaware, a tournament that was about to make headlines for reasons nobody could have ever predicted. McIlroy was lining up a crucial shot, his focus locked in despite the jeers of a particularly loud heckler in the gallery. But then, something strange caught his attention on the green. At first glance, it looked like a regular golf ball. But then, it moved. Not rolled, but darted across the green, as if possessed by some mischievous spirit. And that's when the truth emerged. This wasn't just a golf ball. It was a remote-controlled golf ball, zipping erratically across the pristine green like a wayward robotic prankster. Somewhere in the crowd, an unseen puppet master held the controls, steering their tiny disruptor with precision aimed at one of the greatest golfers in the world. The ball, apparently programmed for maximum disruption, began following McIlroy around. But Rory wasn't having it. With the crowd watching in complete silence, he made his move. In one quick motion, he lunged for the ball like a hawk going after its prey. And this time, he got it. Without missing a beat, he turned, marched straight to the nearest lake, and chucked the thing into the water with the kind of frustration that said, "Enough of this nonsense. Let's move to more recent times." In 2024, we find ourselves at the shores of another memorable moment in golf's increasingly bizarre relationship with its fans. The scene: Adam Hadwin's club had somehow found its way into a water hazard. Under normal circumstances, this would mean a simple equipment replacement and moving on with the round. But then came the twist. Out of the crowd stepped an unlikely hero, a man whose name we may never know, but whose actions would earn him a place in golf's Hall of Bizarre Fame. Let's call him the Aquatic Avenger. Without a moment's hesitation, he stripped down to his underwear, braving not just the icy water but the bemused stares of a well-dressed gallery. The temperature hovered just above freezing, but our hero wasn't deterred. His determination? Unshakable. His fashion sense? Questionable. What followed was 3 minutes of splashing, searching, and increasingly creative cursing as our impromptu salvage operator combed the lake bottom. And then, in an act of pure triumph, he rose from the depths, dripping and victorious, clutching Hadwin's club like a knight returning from battle. The moment transformed from potential tragedy to comedy, when our hero, now dripping wet and still in his underwear, had to navigate his way through the perfectly dressed golf crowd to return the club. Talk about dedication to the sport, though I'm not sure if Hadwin was more grateful or mortified by his nearly naked savior. Annika Sorenstam is about to make history as the first woman in nearly 60 years to compete on the PGA Tour at the Colonial Tournament. It was a groundbreaking moment that had the golf world buzzing with excitement, or so you'd think. But then, Vijay Singh joined the party. Instead of welcoming this historical moment, Singh drops a bombshell and left everyone speechless. He stated outright that women didn't belong on the men's tour, and if he got paired with Annika, he'd withdraw from the tournament. Can you imagine the chaos that unfolded? The backlash was immediate and fierce. His comments ignited a firestorm of debate about gender equality in golf, with fans, players, and pundits taking sides as if it were a heavyweight title fight. The way Singh expressed himself made it clear he didn't see women and men competing in the same space. It was a tense moment, and it put a spotlight on the deeply rooted attitudes in golf at the time. Annika, as poised and professional as ever, handled the controversy with grace, choosing to focus on her game rather than the noise around it. But the moment shows just how hard it can be for women to break through these male-dominated walls, even when they're at the absolute peak of their game. Now at number 15, and this could have been the worst accident in golf history. Let's fast forward to the Phoenix Open, a tournament already famous for its wild, party-like atmosphere. But on this sunny afternoon at the Tournament Players Club in Scottsdale, the chaos wasn't coming from rowdy fans at the 16th hole. No, it was coming from something far more unexpected. A child. It started innocently enough, with spectators enjoying the warm weather and strolling between holes. Then, out of nowhere, a golf cart appeared weaving through the crowd. At the wheel, a kid who looked barely tall enough to see over the steering column, let alone control a motorized vehicle. What happened next was like watching a scene from a comedy movie, except it was terrifyingly real. The young driver somehow managed to gain control of an unattended golf cart and zigzagged through the crowd. Spectators scattered in every direction, like golf balls hit off course, as the cart zoomed unpredictably through the tournament grounds. Security, who are usually ready for anything but probably not for a kid with a stolen cart, scrambled to catch up. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt, but now, golf tournaments might just need to add child-proof golf cart ignitions to their security checklist. Next, number 14. Picture this. Brandt Snedeker is in the middle of his round, locked in and focused, when suddenly, a fan decides to rewrite the rules of golf. What happened next was straight out of a baseball fan's wildest dreams but a golfer's worst nightmare. A ball, mid-flight, hurtling through the air at around 150 miles per hour, destined for the fairway, or perhaps a less fortunate landing spot. And then it happened. In a split second, an overeager spectator extended their hand and bam! A clean, bare-handed catch, no gloves, no warning, just sheer instinct. The crowd froze and you could feel the ripple of shock course through the air. But the stunned silence quickly gave way to chaos as officials swarmed the scene like detectives investigating a high-profile heist. The fans stood there, clutching the ball, a mix of pride and panic on their face as the realization of their mistake began to sink in. Rules officials, armed with rulebooks thicker than most novels, debated furiously, trying to determine where the ball would have landed if the fan kept their hands in their pockets where they belonged. And here we are, number 13. So, when Bill Goldberg stepped onto the golf course that fateful day in 2001, nobody expected the genteel world of golf to collide with the raw intensity of professional wrestling. But that's exactly what happened at the luxurious Dragon Ridge Country Club in Henderson, Nevada. The day had started normally enough. Goldberg, participating in a celebrity golf tournament, was enjoying the kind of peaceful afternoon that seemed worlds away from the roaring crowds and pyrotechnics of WWE. But peace has a way of shattering when you least expect it, especially when an overzealous fan decides to test a professional wrestler's patience. The Heckler, whose name has been lost to the mists of golf infamy, had been following Goldberg's group for several holes, growing increasingly bold with his comments. Maybe it was liquid courage, maybe it was a desire for attention, or maybe it was just plain foolishness. Whatever the reason, this fan was about to learn a valuable lesson about the dangers of poking the bear, or in this case, the Goldberg. As the heckling reached its crescendo, something snapped. Goldberg, all 285 pounds of him, suddenly abandoned his golf stance. The wrestling superstar marched over to the heckler, grabbed him as easily as one might pick up a golf bag, and proceeded to execute what onlookers would later describe as the smoothest lake toss in golf history. Number 12 is one for the books. Have you ever heard about the day golf turned into a boxing match? Well, listen to this one. The 2019 President's Cup at Royal Melbourne was already a pressure cooker of emotions when Patrick Reed's caddy, Kessler Corain, decided he'd had enough. After 3 days of constant heckling about Reed's sand-moving incident in the Bahamas, something inside Corain snapped. It's the third day of competition. There's tension here. Reed and Webb Simpson had just suffered a tough loss in their morning match, and the duo was making their way back to the clubhouse. The crowd, however, wasn't going to let Reed off easy. "Cheater!" someone yelled. "You're a disgrace." The jeers kept coming, louder and harsher, until something in Korda just broke. He jumped off the cart and charged at a fan. Words were exchanged, shoves were thrown, and suddenly the pristine grounds of Royal Melbourne looked more like a bar parking lot at closing time. Security rushed in, separating everyone before things got really ugly. The aftermath. Korda got suspended for the Sunday singles matches. Reed had to use a local caddy for the final round. But Korda didn't regret it one bit. He later said he'd had enough of the heckling. 3 days of constant abuse had finally boiled over into 3 minutes of chaos. Coming in at number 11, and then there's the day Phil Mickelson decided to throw tradition out the window, on a tee box no less. Picture the scene. Tiger Woods is about to start his round at the tournament. The crowd is packed around the tee box, the tension high, the moment carefully choreographed. The announcer, in his deep official voice, begins listing Tiger's accolades. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a 15-time major champion and 82-time PGA Tour winner. The words roll out, one impressive accomplishment after another. The crowd listens in awe, a few fans already cheering. All eyes are on Tiger, who's standing there, poised, waiting for his chance to tee off. Everything about the moment feels grand, almost sacred. And then, Phil. Standing just off to the side, Mickelson decides he's heard enough. Without warning, he steps forward and, in his signature dry tone, says, all right, we know." The crowd erupts. What just happened? Tiger, who had been the picture of focus, cracks a grin, shaking his head. Mickelson had just pulled the ultimate move. Not disrespectful, but daringly cheeky. He took a moment that was all about Tiger and turned it into a playful jab that left everyone laughing, including Woods himself. It wasn't about rivalry. It wasn't about interrupting. It was Phil being Phil. Only he could break the tension of the moment with a line so perfectly timed and delivered, it felt almost scripted. Halfway through our list at number 10, and here we have the most beautiful golfer facing the unthinkable. Paige Spiranak has always been open about her struggles with online trolls and body shamers. But one moment that truly shook her came after she posted what seemed like an innocent photo on Instagram. She was wearing a dress she felt good in, confident and happy. The internet, however, had other plans. What followed was a flood of body-shaming comments calling her fat and criticizing her curves, focusing more on her body than anything else. But then came the Golf Karen incident, a moment that took things from cruel to personal. This wasn't some anonymous online troll. It was a fellow golfer, someone Paige encountered on the course, who decided to publicly criticize her outfit, labeling it inappropriate and unfit for the game of golf. The worst part? Paige wasn't wearing anything outrageous. Her outfit was simple, stylish, and well within the boundaries of golf etiquette. Yet this woman, self-appointed as the enforcer of tradition, made it her mission to shame Paige, accusing her of disrespecting the sport. What made it worse wasn't just the criticism, it was that it came from another woman in golf, someone who should have been an ally in a sport already tough for women to navigate. Paige was left to defend herself yet again, explaining that she could love the game and look good while playing it. Here at number 9, and we are at the 2019 Saudi International. It was meant to be just another tournament on the calendar, but Sergio Garcia turned it into something nobody would forget, and not for the right reasons. Known for his fiery temperament, Garcia's frustration that day boiled over into a meltdown so shocking, it left the golf world stunned. It began subtly, or at least as subtly as a professional golfer sabotaging the course could be. On the greens, Garcia wasn't just venting or muttering under his breath. He started dragging his spikes across the putting surfaces, leaving deliberate marks. Then came the putter. Once, twice, 5 times. He jabbed it into the greens, scarring them like they were the target of his fury. This wasn't just frustration, it was destruction. Other players started noticing something was wrong. Their balls were bouncing and wobbling on lines that should have been smooth. Word spread quickly through the field. Tournament officials were alerted, and they didn't need much time to find the damage. 1 green? No. 2 greens? Try several. The evidence was impossible to ignore, and the conclusion was clear. Sergio Garcia was out of control. The decision was swift and unprecedented. Disqualification. Garcia, a major champion and Ryder Cup legend, was being thrown out of a tournament, not for poor play, but for vandalizing the course itself. In the aftermath, Garcia issued an apology, saying, "In frustration, I damaged a couple of greens, for which I apologize, and I have informed my fellow players it will never happen again. Fixing the greens was easy. Fixing his image, that would take a lot longer. For number 8, let's take a trip back to 2005, where two very different styles of play collided in one of the most awkward pairings in golf history. Ben Crane, infamous for his methodical, glacially slow pace, was paired with Rory Sabatini, a player known for his quick tempo and, let's just say, limited patience. The setting? The Booz Allen Classic. The result? A moment that would spark endless debate. It started like any other round. Crane was in his element, reading putts from every possible angle, taking endless practice swings and consulting his yardage book like he was solving a math equation. Meanwhile, Sabatini was pacing, visibly annoyed, waiting. Eventually, something snapped. Sabatini decided he wasn't going to wait any longer. In an unprecedented move, he walked to the next hole while Crane was still finishing the one before. This wasn't just taking a head start. This was outright abandoning his playing partner mid-hole. In a sport built on etiquette and synchronized play, it was the equivalent of walking off stage while someone was still delivering their lines. The golf world was stunned. Players criticized Sabatini's behavior. Commentators debated the ethics. How slow is too slow? When does patience run out? What's the balance between being thorough and being considerate? The aftermath was, of course, messy. Sabatini defended his actions, saying slow play was killing the game. Crane acknowledged he needed to speed up. The PGA Tour strengthened its pace of play policies. But the image of Sabatini, walking ahead, leaving his playing partner behind, became a symbol of golf's ongoing battle between speed and courtesy. Number 7 is probably the most hyped-up, inappropriate behavior. The 2024 President's Cup was supposed to be about international competition and sportsmanship. Instead, it became the stage for Tom Kim's behavior that split the golf world right down the middle. The young Korean star, barely into his 20s, brought an energy to the tournament that some called electric, and others called excessive. Let's paint the scene. The pressure at Quail Hollow was already suffocating. Team International, perpetual underdogs, were trying to prove themselves against a dominant American squad. That's when Tom Kim decided to turn every hole into his personal theater. After sinking a crucial putt, Kim didn't just celebrate, he exploded. His fist pumps were wild, almost violent. He screamed. He ran across the green like a man possessed. The galleries loved it. The old guard of golf, not so much. "This isn't wrestling," one veteran player muttered. But Kim wasn't done. Each hole brought new celebrations, each putt another performance. He'd sprint ahead of his playing partners, building the crowd into a frenzy before shots. The Americans watching from the sidelines ranged from amused to visibly annoyed. But Kim, he was too busy riding the wave of celebration to care. Whether you loved it or hated it, one thing was clear. Tom Kim had turned the President's Cup into a spectacle no one would forget. Now, for number 6, let's jump into one of the most explosive moments in Ryder Cup history. The Ryder Cup has always been golf's version of a heavyweight championship, but this showdown felt more like a full-blown street brawl. So what happened? Well, the tension had been simmering all day. Every shot, every putt was weighed down by the intensity of national pride. And then, the spark that lit the fire. McIlroy and Matt Fitzpatrick had just lost their match to Patrick Cantlay and Wyndham Clark. As McIlroy lined up for his final putt, trying to salvage a shred of pride, Patrick Cantlay's caddy, Joe LaCava, decided it was time to celebrate. But this wasn't your average post-match fist pump. Oh no. LaCava went full-on, arms raised, hat-waving jubilation, right in McIlroy's line of sight. McIlroy, laser-focused and trying to block out the noise, stepped back. Once, twice. The frustration was visible on his face. He asked LaCava to move. LaCava didn't. That's when things started to boil over. The usually composed McIlroy, a veteran of 6 Ryder Cups, felt his legendary patience starting to snap. But the fireworks didn't stop there. As McIlroy was walking to the parking lot, he encountered Jim Bones Mackay, Justin Thomas's caddy. Words were exchanged, then more words. Suddenly, Shane Lowry had to physically restrain McIlroy, who was pointing and shouting with an intensity rarely seen from the Northern Irishman. "Get out of my face!" McIlroy was heard yelling. The parking lot confrontation lasted only minutes, but videos of the incident spread across social media like wildfire. Golf fans had never seen McIlroy like this. This was the guy known for his level head and professional demeanor, now being held back from confronting a group of caddies. Yes, you've reached our top 5. So, when it comes to chaos in golf, nothing, and I mean nothing, tops the infamous Battle of Brookline at the 1999 Ryder Cup. This wasn't just a golf tournament. It was a full-blown spectacle that felt more like a heated soccer rivalry than a gentleman's game. The country club in Brookline became ground zero for one of the most controversial moments in the sport's history. Heading into the final day, the U.S. team was trailing and the atmosphere was already supercharged. The stakes couldn't have been higher when Justin Leonard stepped up what would become one of the most controversial putts in golf history. And then it happened. Leonard's ball tracked across the green and dropped into the hole. All hell broke loose. The American team, their wives, and even random officials stormed the green in celebration. One tiny problem. Josemaria Olazabal still had a putt to have the hole. The Europeans were furious, and for good reason. This wasn't just breaking golf etiquette. This was taking golf etiquette out back and beating it senseless. Players were jumping around like they'd won the Super Bowl. Fans were screaming in European players' faces. It was pure mayhem. Sam Torrance, a European vice-captain, called it the most disgraceful and disgusting day in the history of professional golf. Who needs quiet on the green when you can have total chaos instead? Counting down to number 4, and let's fast forward to 2022. We're at the Evian Championship, another women's major. Nelly Korda, one of the best players in the world, is making a charge in the final round. She hits her approach shot on the 6th hole. It's not great. The ball ends up in some wood chips near the spectators. Not ideal, but not a disaster. Or so she thought. Enter our next protagonist in this saga of golf gone wild. A fan who apparently missed the memo about not touching balls in play. This woman spots Korda's ball, and what does she do? She picks it up, like it's a souvenir or something. She then walks over to an official, ball in hand, smiling like she's just won the lottery. The commentators lose it. "It's not a souvenir," one of them shouts. Meanwhile, poor Nelly Korda is probably wondering if she's being punked. The official has to explain to this woman that she's just committed a major no-no. You can see the moment it dawns on her. The smile drops, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated, "Oh no." She has to go back and drop the ball where she found it, all while wearing the expression of someone who just wants the ground to open up and swallow them whole. Korda, to her credit, handles it like a pro, but the damage is done. She ends up with a double bogey on the hole, effectively killing her chances of winning the tournament. Sliding into our top 3, it's 2024 and we're back at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. You remember the place with the naked guy a few years back? Well, they decided to one-up themselves this time. Heavy rains had turned parts of the course into a muddy mess. Now, for most tournaments, this would be a problem. For the Phoenix Open, it was an opportunity. Some genius fans looked at those muddy hills and thought, you know what? That looks like a great place to slide down. And slide they did. Grown adults, many probably a few beers deep, hurling themselves down muddy slopes like it's some kind of redneck water park. It's part Woodstock, part Tough Mudder, all ridiculous. And why stop at mudsliding when you can make sand angels? That's right. At the same tournament, one particularly inspired fan decided to take things to the next level. He somehow managed to evade security, sprint onto the 16th fairway, and make a beeline for the bunker. Now, most course invaders might just run around a bit, maybe wave to the crowd. Not this guy. He goes full send, diving into the bunker like it's the ball pit at a kid's birthday party. And what does he do next? He starts making sand angels. That's right, this grown man is flailing his arms and legs in the sand like a kid who's just seen snow for the first time. Next up, number 2. If you want to talk about real crowd interaction, let's rewind to 2015 and the Players' Championship, golf's unofficial 5th major. Sergio Garcia was already battling his swing when the hecklers showed up to make things even worse. Golf crowds are typically respectful, but this time, not so much. It started harmless enough, with a few playful jabs, the kind of comments that most pros brush off. But these fans weren't just throwing out random insults. They'd come prepared. "Pull it left, Sergio," they shouted, timing it just before his backswing. Then came references to his career lows. His notorious spitting incident, his rivalry with Tiger Woods, nothing was off limits. Garcia did his best to stay focused. He'd been in the spotlight long enough to know how to handle the pressure. But as the day dragged on, the heckling got meaner. The alcohol kicked in, and the taunts grew louder, bolder. One particularly cheeky fan even mimicked Garcia's famous pre-shot routine, re-gripping an imaginary club over and over again. The breaking point came at the infamous 17th hole, the island green. As Garcia addressed his ball, trying to block out the noise, a voice pierced the air. It was about his breakup with Greg Norman's daughter. Garcia froze, stepping back from his shot, his face a mix of fury and disbelief. The crowd murmured, but no one came forward. Officials tried to pinpoint the culprits, but in a sea of thousands, they were invisible. Garcia later admitted the relentless taunts had gotten to him. His concentration shattered. Security was beefed up around his group, but the damage was already done. His round unraveled, and so did his tournament. It was a brutal reminder that even in golf, sometimes the biggest challenge isn't the course, it's the crowd. And finally, the big number one. We're back here in 2023, and things really got turned up this year. It's a beautiful day at TPC Scottsdale. The 16th hole is buzzing with energy. Suddenly, a commotion erupts. A fan, wearing nothing but a Speedo, has decided to make his grand entrance. But this isn't just any course invasion. Oh no, this guy has a plan. First stop, the flagstick. Our Speedo-clad hero grabs it and starts pole dancing. And what really grabbed everyone's attention was the message he had written on his back. 19th hole, with an arrow pointing straight at his ass, making it pretty clear that he wasn't talking about the beers after a round. The cheeky stunt got loud cheers from the crowd. However, he's not done. After his performance, he makes a break for it. And that's when things get really wild. As he sprints towards the tunnel to the 17th tee, a security guard moves to intercept him. But our streaker has moves. He jukes left, then right, leaving the guard grasping at air. You'd think that'd be the end of it, right? Wrong, this guy's just getting started. He makes it through the tunnel and keeps on running, all the way down the 17th fairway. Players, caddies, and officials can only watch in disbelief as this nearly naked man turns their golf tournament into a track meet. But the grand finale? He takes a flying leap into the pond left of the 17th green. Eventually, our aquatic acrobat surrenders to security. But not before he's given everyone a show they'll never forget. Oh, and if you're still here, we have made another great video for you. Enjoy.